Hey everybody, in this video, I want to talk about why it's almost impossible for there to ever be a triple champion in the UFC, at least if things remain how they are now. We'll get to that later in the video. But before we begin, if you like this type of content, please consider a subscribe, a like. I make daily MMA content. I believe we're on either day 9 or day 10 of daily MMA content. And if you have a suggestion for how I can make this better, or a content idea that you want to give me, put it down in the comment section. And with that out of the way, let's get started. You see, the UFC has been around for 30 years now. We have just hit the 30th anniversary, I believe, last weekend. And I want to talk about why it's impossible for there to be a triple champion. We have had a grand total, I have it written down over here, of 105 champions. I don't count interims and I don't count repeat champions because I think that's kind of cheating and just pumping up the numbers. So we roughly have 105 UFC champions, both going over women's and men's divisions. Of those, we have 10 UFC fighters that have been able to win a belt and then either relinquish the belt or keep it and win another belt. Now, if we're talking about double champs where they hold the belt simultaneously, where most people think is a double champion, we only have 4. That being Daniel Cormier, Conor McGregor, Amanda Nunes, and I believe Henry Cejudo. I know some people in the last video I made said GSP. GSP did not currently have the welterweight belt. It was similar to a Alex Pereira type situation. And if you're waiting on there being a triple champion, I encourage you, do not hold your breath, because the amount of things that have to occur for that to happen are actually kind of insane. So let's get over a few of the problems, and at the end of the video, I'll give some solutions to this problem. Number one, and the most obvious, is the amount of fast tracking that would have to take place. So the best example of people that were behind somebody becoming a triple champion was Hamzat Shamayev. Hamzat Shamayev, in the beginning of his UFC career, was unstoppable. This man was finishing everybody. First round, wasn't getting touched. Even in the round where he did take it 3 rounds, wasn't getting touched at all. It was something crazy. Like, in 4 UFC fights, he took only 4 strikes. And then he fought Gilbert Burns, and then that changed real quickly. But Gilbert was the toughest stylistic matchup for Hamzat Shamayev, so that's not really fair. But what is fair to bring up is Hamzat Shamayev completely fumbled his opportunity to go for the triple champion goal if he was ever interested in it, and I do believe he was. So Hamzat Shamayev fights Gilbert Burns, wins the fight, although it was really close, but not a robbery, close fight. Hamzat Shamayev beats Gilbert Burns. They give him Nate Diaz, and believe it or not, Nate Diaz was a number 1 contenders fight. That's what it was. Leon Edwards beat Nate Diaz and got the fight for the title. So Hamzat Shamayev was offered that same opportunity. Hamzat Shamayev was supposed to fight him, misses weight by 9 pounds, and ends up fighting Kevin Holland. Now, don't get me wrong, that win means more than nothing, but Diaz was your number 1 contenders fight. And we've seen how things have gone. I believe he would have won that fight fairly easily. And I do believe Hamzat would have beaten Leon Edwards. Not because Leon is bad, but that's a styles make fights type of scenario. And Leon Edwards' style does not go well with Hamzat Shamayev. And I think Hamzat would have been able to do Leon Edwards pretty dirty. But now we can't justify giving Hamzat Shamayev the welterweight title fight, because I at this point, there's no way he's making welterweight. So that opportunity was missed. He's not winning a belt at heavyweight for him to become a triple champion. I'm holding my breath whether he's even going to win a belt at middleweight, because I do believe the first fighter that takes him to the championship rounds wins that fight. But let's see if that prediction goes well in the future. Next fighter that I believe could have done it would have been an Alexander Volkanovski. Alexander Volkanovski ran featherweight to the point that if he wanted to vacate the belt, people would still call him champion. If he said, okay, I own this division. I'm going to go away for a year fighting in the lightweight division and maybe even the welterweight division to go for the triple champion goal. I don't think anybody would question him still becoming the spiritual champion of there. Just have a forever interim champion where it's just Max Holloway taking on endless waves of featherweights who want to become champion one day, and he just ruins their dreams. So he could have just gone up to lightweight, and if he did beat Islam Makhachev, if he wanted to get real crazy, maybe take a short notice matchup against Leon Edwards. I don't think he would have won it, but he started his MMA career at middleweight and then came down to featherweight. So crazy stuff happens, I'm aware of that. But I don't think he would have achieved it, but it would have been pretty entertaining. Now, I would be happy if he defends the featherweight belt for the rest of his career, but I'm a little worried about Volk. Now, the third person that I'd like to name is Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira won't become a simultaneous champion. There is no way he is making 185 again. I'm shocked he was able to do it to begin with. However, becoming a triple champion, beating Israel Adesanya, the second best middleweight to ever live, light heavyweight beating Yuri Prohaska, and maybe going up to heavyweight. Now, the only reason that he's even in the thumbnail of this video is because reporters asked Glover Teixeira if Alex would ever be interested in going up to heavyweight. Because, I mean, like, that's a fun question to ask. His response surprised me because he said, there is a protocol in place if Alex ever wanted to go up. But he says Alex would have to gain around 20 pounds. He rocks around over like 223, 220. And he would have to go up to 240. And then Glover would believe his chances at fighting somebody. And he named specifically Sergey Pavlovich. First off, what a banger that would be. Sergey Pavlovich versus Alex Pereira would be insane. But I don't like Alex Pereira's chances, especially against somebody like Tom Aspinall or even an Almeida, because I'm not impressed with Alex Pereira's evolution in wrestling or even in grappling as a whole. So I think he has the best chance, yeah, but his opportunity, we're talking about half of a percentage. But why is this so hard? Well, why is it so difficult to become a triple champion outside of the normal, becoming a triple champ is just physically difficult? It's the weight classes. If you want a triple champion, there's only 2 weight classes the UFC would have to put in. First off, you change 170 to 175. I've always wanted that to happen because I think it's crazy that we go from 155 to 170 and from 170 to 185. Change 170 to 175 and you put in 165. If there's a 165-pound division, I think Islam Makhachev could possibly keep the 155 strap, win the 165 strap, and win the 175 strap, because that would be a Leon Edwards situation. And you would have fighters like Colby Covington and Gilbert Burns that would be able to go down the 165, and those are fun matchups for Islam. And another weight class I wish was in there and should be is you go from 185 to 205. That's 20 pounds. The highest weight discrepancy if you don't count 205 in heavyweight, but we'll get to that. 185 needs to go from 185 to 195. There needs to be a cruiser weight class. And when people argue, let's not do that because then it will become boxing. What? So we go, let's go over the weight classes real quick. 125, 135, 145, 155, 170, 185, 205. So we kind of messed up at the very end, did we? So it would make more sense if we went from 155 to 165, 75, and so on every 10 pounds. We committed to that for the first few weight classes, and then we just kind of at the very end. Doesn't make any sense to me. The whole argument of it's going to become more like boxing. Let me explain to you how bad the boxing situation is, and you tell me if we're close to that. Imagine if the UFC had a weight class every 3.5 pounds. In some cases, that's how bad it is. Most of the time, it's just 5 pounds. Let's say every 5 pounds. Let's make it easier. Every 5 pounds, you have a different weight class. But on top of that, every single MMA fighter that is in Bellator, PFL, 1FC, and UFC all compete within the same circle. And we have multiple different belts for every organization. That is how bad boxing is. So I don't want to hear that comparison because we're not even close to that. Putting 2 weight classes in, which arguably should have been there in the first place, and are a real weight class in every other, not just boxing and MMA. In grappling, these are real and very popular weight classes. Because most people are in that 165 to 195 area. It's just too big of a weight class gap. And when we talk about 205 to heavyweight, first off, heavyweight should never have a weight limit. It makes no sense to me. And let's be real here, 205 and up, it's 206 and up is heavyweight. It's not explicitly said, but if you want to be a competitive champion at heavyweight now, you at least have to be 230 to 240. That's why I believe Glover said that. Because he knows that. So there needs to be more weight classes, then that's more possible. There's more likely for there to be double champions if you want more double champions. Fighters are fighting at their normal weight classes and aren't being forced to go like a Colby Covington situation. Bro doesn't cut weight. He fights at his natural weight class, and I think at most, maybe in camp, eats healthy and cuts around 10 pounds. If you've never cut 10 pounds before, that's nothing. We're talking in the realm of 20 to 40 pounds for some of these people, like Michael Chandler, who walks around at 190, which is insane, but that's a different rant for weight cutting and why that needs to end. But a triple champion won't happen because of weight classes, and the other issue that I'm going to end on is management. Because they would almost have to be a manager that doesn't control most of these champions. You can't be an Ali Abdelaziz because Ali only makes his fighters fight each other when it's beneficial for both of them. That's why we're talking about Justin Gaethje possibly fighting Max Holloway, because Ali Abdelaziz manages Justin Gaethje and Islam Makhachev. So we have a situation where a contender could be fighting a champion that are both managed by the same person. That's a problem for him, because you want to maximize the amount of profit that you're making on these fighters. And just imagine this issue when we're talking about 3 different champions, really. So if Hamzat Shamayev, I'm not sure who manages him, but it has to be a bigger manager. Hamzat Shamayev is going to have to fight Leon Edwards, Sean Strickland, and Alex Pereira. First off, I don't think he wins all those matchups. I don't think he would beat Alex Pereira at 205 because legitimately all Alex Pereira has to do is survive the first round and he pieces Hamzat up. But say he does that. They cannot be managed by the same people because what you're doing is you're cannibalizing your own fighters who are managed by the same person. You'd rather have 3 champions, if not maybe even 2 champions, than one dude who's eating up 3 of the champions. You're not getting paid more having one fighter that has a triple champion than having 3 fighters that are all owning their own belt. I hope that makes sense and I'm not just rambling on. But you would rather have 3 different fighters that you're managing that are all champions instead of just one fighter who is a triple champion. So that's why that won't happen from a promotional and a weight class point of view. That is the problem that we're talking about here. And if you were to fix this issue, there's nothing you can do about the promotional side of things. Like you're not going to make Ali. Like you're not going to put policies in place for the amount of fighters that can be managed. There's just no fixing that. And I think our system is better than boxing. You can put in 2 more weight classes. I'm not talking about ending weight cutting. That's crazy. But you can put in 2 more weight classes. That wouldn't end the UFC. But until that happens, there will never be a triple champion. Especially, there will never be a simultaneous champion. Because the amount of holding up of divisions that would take place would be insane. You would have to have 2 interim champions back to back. Because we can barely get some champions to defend their belt twice a year. Imagine if we had to get a champion that had to defend his belt 3 times a year and do it at 3 different weight classes. That just doesn't happen. But that's going to be it for the video. If you think I'm wrong, go in the comment section and explain why I'm wrong. I'll read the comments, and if I think you make a great point, I might pin your comment. And with that out of the way, adios, guys.